If you want to learn programming, you don't need to start with complex code. You need to understand how things work at a basic level. Let's start with variables. A variable is simply a place where you store data. Think of it like a labeled box. You give the box a name and you put a value inside it. For example, if you write x equals 10, you are storing the value 10 inside a box called x. Later, you can change that value. That's why it's called a variable. Now compare that to a constant. A constant is also a box, but once you put a value inside it, you cannot change it. This is useful for values that should stay the same, like pi, which is always 3.14. Next, we have arrays. An array is a way to store multiple values in one place instead of creating many variables. For example, instead of writing A equals 10, B equals 20, C equals 30, you can store all of them in one array like 10, 20, 30. Each value has a position called an index, and the first index always starts at 0. A vector is very similar to an array, but with one key difference. Arrays usually have a fixed size, meaning you decide the size in advance. Vectors are more flexible because they can grow or shrink automatically as you add or remove elements. Now, let's talk about functions. A function is a block of code that performs a specific task. Instead of repeating the same code multiple times, you write it once inside a function and reuse it whenever you need it. This makes your code cleaner and easier to manage. Functions can also take inputs, and these inputs are called parameters. For example, if you have a function that adds two numbers, those two numbers are parameters. The function uses them to produce a result. Loops are used when you want to repeat something multiple times. Instead of writing the same line again and again, you use a loop to automate the repetition. For example, if you want to print numbers from 1 to 10, a loop can do that easily. Programs also need to make decisions, and this is where conditional statements come in. Using if and else, the program can choose what to do based on a condition. For example, if a user is older than 18, allow access. Otherwise, deny access. These conditions are based on something called Boolean expressions. A Boolean expression is something that is either true or false. For example, 5 is greater than 3 is true, while 2 is greater than 10 is false. Finally, branching is the idea that a program can follow different paths depending on conditions. Instead of one straight flow, the program can take different directions based on what is true or false. Once you understand these concepts, programming becomes much easier because every language uses these same ideas.